All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Global Gas Innovation Call Information Webinar. My name is Martin Menezes, and I will be delivering today's session. A couple of housekeeping notes before we commence. Feel free to use the chat feature at any time during today's delivery to submit any questions. Your microphones and cameras have been temporarily disabled, and you'll be able to use them during the Q&A session towards the end. This webinar will be recorded and the recording shared on our website for you to reference in the future. In the odd event we can't go through anyone's questions today, or if you have further questions on the program or the application, don't hesitate to reach out to us at application@ngif.ca, and we'd be happy to address any queries. Today's agenda is going to be centered around the Global Gas Innovation Call. We're going to go through the call's delivery, its design, and how proponents can submit an application to be considered for funding. Additionally, we'll also give you a quick overview on NGIF Accelerator and who we are as an organization. If you're tuning in today to gather insights on any other initiative from NGIF's innovation platform, I'd recommend you send us an email instead, and we'd be happy to address any queries. Joining me today is Atul Abbat, who is the COO and partner at NGIF. Atul brings about 2 decades worth of experience spanning across venture capital, oil and gas, and innovation, and also sits as a part of NGIF's executive committee. Helping us out today is also Denis Philip on the back end, who leads our communication efforts. Atul, over to you.
Thank you, Myron, and welcome everyone on this information webinar. A little bit about NGIF. NGIF stands for Natural Gas Innovation Fund. Our mandate is to advance clean tech solutions for gas that can help reduce emissions. And we do this in a couple of ways. We have a for-profit corporation, which is NGIF Capital. It offers equity financing for clean tech startups with solutions for natural gas sector. And then we have a not-for-profit corporation, NGIF Accelerator. And this not-for-profit corporation is dedicated to advancing clean technology development, industry validation, and commercialization of startups for the natural gas industry. NGIF Accelerator runs and operates 2 of our programs. The first one is the Industry Grants Program, and the second is the NGIF Emissions Testing Center Program. Next slide. The Industry Grants Program is where this Global Gas Innovation Call is centered. The program is a not-for-profit, industry-led initiative essentially designed to accelerate innovation through funding for development and demonstration projects. This is designed and developed by our member companies, and the program kind of helps technologies advance and also helps the energy industry to adopt these technologies. We bridge the gap between innovation and commercialization, turning potential technologies into performance for the energy sector. This program has committed millions of dollars and has led to various collaborations leading to adoption of real-world solutions by the energy companies. Next slide. Quick kind of update. This program has been up and running for the last 8-9 years now. We have seen more than 1,000 inquiries to us. Formally, more than 600 applications have been submitted. Through all that work, we have about 110 plus projects approved, amounting to more than $30 million in approved funding from NGIF, with a total project value of more than $350 million. Through all that work, we have 13 technologies in market today, more than 35 projects completed. And through this work, we have patents and jobs supported through the funding. On the right, you would see NGIF members. On the upstream, we have Canadian Natural, Tomlin Oil, Arc Resources, and Birchcliff. And then on the downstream, we have ATCO, FortisBC, Enbridge Gas, Pacific Northern Gas, Apex Utilities, and Sask Energy. Next slide. And these are some of our clean tech priorities where we play. We are very active in anything and everything to do with natural gas applications. So carbon capture, utilization and storage, methane management, energy efficiency, renewable natural gas, heat and power generation, hydrogen, value-added products, digital transformation, water management, and transportation. Myron, I think I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Akil. So like Akil rightfully mentioned, we have designed this call specifically to accelerate any impactful technologies towards commercialization, at the same time de-risk any innovations that have some solutions to the natural gas industry. So the Global Gas Innovation Call is an international call for proposals with a fixed intake window to submit any proposals. Proponents can apply for up to 500,000 Canadian dollars in non-dilutive grant funding or up to 50% of the project's qualifying expenses, whichever is the lesser amount among the two. We're interested in technologies that have the natural gas industry as a target market. Particularly, we're looking at solutions that have applications in the upstream, midstream, or downstream natural gas sectors. This call has three technology categories: sustainable energy innovations, low emission gas innovations, and an open category. Each category has a skill set or a subset of technology focus areas, which have a minimum TRL level that applicants need to comply to in order to be eligible for funding. I'll circle back on eligibility with a little more granularity on a later slide, but to close the loop on this overview, this is an international call. Applicants do not need to have a Canadian presence in order to be eligible to apply for funding. The only geographic clause of the call is that if you have a solution that tailors to the upstream natural gas industry, your project needs to be demonstrated here in Canada. So why should you apply for the Global Gas Innovation Call, and what is the value proposition of this competition? The first is probably the most obvious, that there's non-dilutive capital up for grabs. What makes this call a bit unique is that this is pooled capital coming in from some of Canada's largest oil and gas companies. The second value proposition that I would like to talk about is access to industry demonstration sites. Most applicants that we engage with tell us how difficult it is to get into a room with oil and gas companies and get them to offer testing sites so proponents can de-risk their technologies and test their innovations. NGIF takes care of that for you through this call. The third value proposition is what I think is the most valuable. The evaluators of your applications are members of the industry and potentially your future customers. Having that adopter-centric feedback is so valuable for the strategic rollouts of your products. We've had applicants in the past who fine-tuned their strategies and have served them quite well. The last value proposition I want to talk about is being able to leverage NGIF's network in the ecosystem, in the innovation ecosystem. We've helped open doors, make introductions, and even refer projects to other funding organizations, and we intend on continuing to do so for this call. With that being said, it should be no surprise that our initiatives are quite competitive. I would encourage everyone to take the time to craft really good quality expression of interests, and we're here to help. In the event you want to set up a call before the deadline and brainstorm through your application together, don't hesitate to send us a quick email and we'd be happy to set that up. This call, like I mentioned before, has three categories. Each category has a series of technology sub-focus areas as follows. The first category is sustainable energy innovation that comprise of energy efficiency, waste heat utilization, natural gas heat pumps, heat cooling and power generation, and natural gas resiliency of end-use residential applications. If you have a solution that complies with any of these technology focus areas and serves the minimum TRL levels, please apply to category 1. Similarly, category 2 is low emission gas innovations. that focuses on carbon capture, utilization, and storage, as well as natural gas, renewable natural gas technologies or innovations. If you comply with the minimum TR level as stated here, please apply to category 2. Category 3 is a bit unique, that it's an open category. If you don't necessarily dovetail well into category 1 or category 2 or any of the technology focus areas mentioned in the first two categories, please apply to category 3. A few examples that serve the natural gas value chain are mentioned here and are reiterated again in the challenge statements. Before I proceed, I just want to say that the specific solutions and examples in the challenge statements just merely serve as examples. As long as you comply with the technology focus area and you have some value to the natural gas value chain when you're increasing efficiency, you're improving the safety, or you're reducing emissions, you will be eligible to apply and will be considered for funding. At any time, if you doubt the validity of your application, don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you out. Once again, I highly encourage everyone to read through the intake guidelines documents and challenge statements for more information. Our application process is stage gated and consists of 3 stages. The first stage is the intake stage, and is the stage we're currently in, and it is predominantly centered around the expression of interests. Once expression of interests are received, NGIF conducts a thorough review on all applications. We want to ensure that the eligibility criteria are being met and we have all the information that we need to make a sound decision. In the event we have some missing information, we will reach out to the particular applicant to address those white spaces. Once that's done, we gather all the industry evaluators in one room and make a collective decision on who we want to invite for stage 2 that comprises of a deeper due diligence. If you're one of the applicants that does get shortlisted to stage 2, you'll be asked to submit a detailed investment proposal. For comparison, a detailed investment proposal comprises of 50 pages as opposed to the expression of interest, which is just 13. In addition to the investment proposal, we'll also be conducting site visits where you can orally dictate the value proposition of your innovation to the industry. Once that's done, we follow a similar exercise of collecting score sheets from the industry evaluators, gathering them in one room, and making a collective decision on who receives the funding. If you're one of the shortlisted recipients, you then proceed to stage 3, where we sign a formal contribution agreement with you and we kickstart the project. In terms of timelines, expression of interest deadlines are 17th of February. Depending on the volume of applications we receive, we expect to announce the shortlisted list towards the end of March. Once that's done, you'll be given roughly about a month to submit the investment proposal, and we'll commence with site visits shortly after. If everything is on track, we do expect to announce the finalists sometime in the summer, towards the end of July. In terms of eligibility, I like categorizing them in 3 tiers. So the first one is the applicant. This is an international call for proposals. So proposals can be based anywhere in the world as long as you are from a non-sanctioned UN country. We're also only going to be looking at startups and SMEs. Our definition of both is that a startup is an organization that employs fewer than 100 employees and generates less than 25 million Canadian dollars annually. For a small to medium enterprise, you're an organization that employs less than 500 employees. For your project, every application needs to load to a project baseline, where the core scope is how you're going to advance through TRLs of your innovation. The only project clause geographically is if you have a technology that is relevant to natural gas production, which is the upstream sector, you will have to demonstrate or test your technology at one of the NGIF industry member sites here in Canada. Now, it is not a requirement for you to have a secured demonstration site during the time of your application. We will facilitate those conversations at a later stage towards stage 2. Additionally, the maximum length for your project should be no more than 3 years. In terms of technology, as long as you comply with one of the categories and one of the sub-focus areas, you will be eligible. Please be mindful of the minimum TRL levels for each technology focus area. For more information on this front, please refer to the intake guidelines documents or don't hesitate to reach out to us through email. A common question we get is how do we evaluate applications? Given that we are industry centric and we are market driven, we look at a whole bunch of different things. But to categorize a few high level stuff, the first thing we look at is the relevance to the natural gas industry. We want to be able to see a very clear value proposition to the end adopter. We also want like to see environmental benefits. What is the capex and opex of the technology looking like? And whether you have a clear understanding of what the addressable market needs are. The second thing we look at is the innovationness of your technology. What is the status of the IP and what's the scientific basis of the technology? How does your tech compare with other competitors in the market? What are the gaps needed to accelerate your technology towards commercialization? The third thing we look at is your project plan or the project baseline. We want to be able to see a very clear, laid out, appropriate work plan. We also evaluate if the timeline and the cost mirror the scope that was alluded into the expression of interest. The last thing we look at is your team for the project. Do you have a demonstrated track record of execution? Do you have the right number of resources and the right type of resources to execute the scope? For more information on that front, though, please refer to the intake guidelines document. Another question we often get is centered around IP and confidentiality. All IP rights remain vested in the applicant. All we have is retain the rights to use the project results if you do get chosen for funding. We will surface these conversations in the event you do get selected for funding and we sign a contribution agreement. In terms of confidentiality, it's something we take quite seriously at NGIF. We will not disclose any confidential information unless it becomes a part of the public domain or explicitly requested by you. So how do you submit an application? At this stage, the application is centered around the expression of interest, which is a 13-page document alluding on the following 5 categories. The first is your organization details, so high-level details on your team and what your capabilities are. The second is the technology and what's the level of innovation at stake here. The third is the value proposition and what your addressable market is. The fourth is your project or the project baseline, which comprises of scope, cost, and timeline. And the last thing is the environmental benefits, or what are the greenhouse gas reductions that your technology is capable of delivering. To apply, head on to the NGIF website and click the Apply Here button under the Global Gas Innovation Call microsite. Once again, I would encourage everyone to read through the intake guidelines documents and the other application documents before submitting an application. Once you click the Apply Here button, you will be rerouted to the online application portal. If you have applied for a grant with us in the past, you can use the credentials you received. If not, please click Register here if you're new to the system and this is your first time with NGIF. If this is your first time to create an account, you'll be asked to jot in some very basic details on your organization and yourself. Once that's done, you'll be greeted with this landing page. To submit an application to the Global Gas Innovation Call, please click on Funding Programs Open. Once you're rerouted to the next page, click Apply Now under the Global Gas Innovation Call. The grant application has 2 tabs. The first tab is very basic information on yourself and how you've heard about the application. You'll also be able to download the application documents needed for the grant on this tab. The second tab has the main information we would need to evaluate your proposal. The main section here is the expression of interest section. You'll have to click on the hyperlink here to download the EOI template. populate it with the relevant information, and then upload it again before clicking submit. The EOI template has those 5 categories that I mentioned earlier and looks sort of like this. I would encourage everyone to follow the guardrails and the instructions on the EOI template and to take the time to craft good quality expression of interest before you submit. Before I close loop here, if you have been approved for funding with any of NGIF's trusted partners, a few of them are shown on the screen. Please reach out to us directly. We will directly push you to stage 2 of our due diligence evaluation. In terms of next steps, do reach out to us for help or feedback on crafting your expression of interests. If you have a methane innovation that's capable of reducing methane emissions, we have a separate program called the Methane Reduction Demonstration Program that I encourage everyone to check out. If you're also in the methane reduction innovation space, check out NGIF Emission Testing Center program. It's a free in-queue lab and field validation program, and we can help you, we can set you up with the right personnel internally on that front. For any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to application@ngif.ca, and also subscribe to our newsletter and our socials on LinkedIn and on X for future updates on funding or any other initiative. This is the first webinar in a 2-part series. The next webinar will be on the 29th of January if you're interested in attending. That's it from me for now. I will open the floor to questions and hand it over to Dini.
Byron, while we wait for everyone to send in their questions, let's begin with the ones we have already received. So we have a couple of questions here. Akhil, to you. Do we need to have a testing site in mind when we apply, or will you help us find a pilot partner?
So we can certainly help you find a pilot partner if the technology is directed towards an upstream natural gas operations. At stage 1, we certainly like you to think about the testing site. You may not have the testing site in place, but at least you should be thinking about what are some of the things you want to see at the testing site, and some of the requirements and that you would need to see for your technology to be tested and validated in field. So it's not required in stage 1, but we would encourage you to think about what those facilities you would be needing to be tested and demonstrate your technology.
Thanks, Akhil. So another question is, can a USA-based non-for-profit be a prime? If yes, also have a Canadian partner included in the team?
So the funding is eligible for technology startups, which who can actually then retain the IP that would be generated. Not-for-profits are eligible. They can be prime, but within these kind of guardrails that I just mentioned. Based on the project scope and the execution philosophy and strategy, you may have a Canadian partner, you may not have a Canadian partner. That is not a preference, and it would also depend on what stage of the technology is. If it's an execution in Canada, then of course you would like to have some Canadian partners involved. If it is more, let's say, TRL 5 to 6, where you are still doing some lab testing and scale up, that could be within the facilities wherever those are located. So if I can get more specifics around those would be great for me to be more pointed and provide you with more guidance. So feel free to reach out to us separately if you want to.
Okay, the next question, is geological hydrogen a topic of interest?
This would be considered eligible as part of our open category. So please feel free to apply in that. This is an emerging subject, so we are keen to look at what's in the space and definitely would be keen to look at solutions in this area.
Will there be a site visit to US? Is that possible?
Oh yeah, that's something we do as part of our stage 2 process. That's the due diligence phase of the application, and successful applicants from stage 1 will be invited to stage 2, and at that point we typically go and visit in person. And most likely in US and Canada.
Next question. We have test sites, but they are all in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Do we need an international facility as well? And if this includes the pipelines? And do you take a license? I think it's license, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I didn't fully understand the question here. If you have a test site in Alberta and Sask, that's perfectly fine. I'm not sure what is meant by international facility. If this is a demonstration project, then we would like this to be in Canada. And if part of the scope has some elements to be done internationally, that's also, I think, eligible based on what those specifics are. We can review those. And then I didn't fully understand what is meant by, does it also include pipelines? So maybe I think it's Tim. Tim, if you can maybe unmute yourself and ask, that's okay.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay, go ahead, Tim, then.
I'm just wondering whether, well, there's a couple of things. Can we apply, for example, for two separate technologies in two separate companies that are highly complementary but non-conflicting in terms of where they work or what they do? So that would be like, you know, my company Innovision, and then the former one that was doing carbon sequestering or imaging where carbon flooding was going. Carbon sequestering wasn't a thing then. To map it in the field, so to speak. So two separate companies. One is in a borehole, one is for the field and mapping big things, one is for doing micro methane emission stuff and well integrity, etc. Can we also bring along Canadian partners that are active in the field, like not or potential like service companies that are helping us get there?
I think the answer to both is yes. So if you have two different companies addressing, let's say, two different problems, but both are complementary, that's perfectly fine. And if you, as part of your execution, if you want to involve Canadian service providers, that's even better. We do want to see strong execution capabilities. So those are in short, probably yes and yes.
Well, that's good, because we just completed initial tool testing and everything works fine, and now it's time to develop in a program like what you're looking at, you know. So anyway, thanks for answering.
And then, Tim, I think you also have an IP question. We don't take any.
Yes, like, because I read that thing that says we reserve the right to I forget the exact wording on the slide, but share the IP or something with the IP. And it
Yeah,
just It looked like you get the right to use it.
So we have use rights for the project outcomes, not on the IP. The project IP, if there is any IP generated, would vest with the with the applicant. If there is a background IP would be with the original owner of that background IP. And the outcomes of the project results, any analysis, any reports that you submit to us would be something that we would like to have.
But not for public disclosure.
No, we
No.
keep it with us. There would be a non-confidential version of that report that will work with you to get kind of out at the time of once we are at that stage.
Great, that's fantastic. I hate to develop something and have someone take it, you know?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tim. Next question. Can you clarify regarding the funding gap and respect to existing approval with trusted partner?
Dini, can you come again?
The question is, can you clarify regarding the funding gap with respect to existing approval with trusted partner?
Yeah, the stacking rules still remains the same. I think this funding is this particular competition is offering up to 50% of the project eligible cost. So within those stacking rules, if there is any funding gap and the project is already approved by one of our trusted partners, we will ask for some basic information, and then if we feel that will go through a quick review, and if that's a yes on our end, then we'll invite you directly into our stage 2.
Thanks, Akhil. Next, is this program considered like public funding? Is there a maximum of public funding linked with this program?
No, this is industry funding. This particular call is from our NGIF industry members, and the due diligence would have its own process that we follow through stage 1, stage 2.
Next is TRL question. Some technologies may fit both category 1 and category 3, but category 3 require higher TRL. Would you accept TRL 5 for a technology that fits both category 1 and 3? For example, innovative methane pyrolysis.
If it's methane pyrolysis, then I think that would clearly fit into open category 3. So follow TRL 6 plus as the guidance on the TRL scale. And if there is any specific let's say thing, then maybe you can unmute yourself now, or we can have a side conversation.
Okay. Can sister companies apply with different tech, which is also applicable both tech at TRL 7 and 8?
So the guidance on eligibility is given in the in our guidelines document. There are conditions around subsidiary companies if the company is an SME. So you can definitely look at those. In general, if two different companies working on 2 different technologies, it's absolutely fine. Even a single company working on 2 different technologies can also submit to 2 applications.
Are awards expected to be evenly distributed across category 1, 2, and 3 projects? I expect there will be many category 3 projects.
I'm trying to.
That's the last question we received.
So we don't have any distribution set up as such. The projects will be evaluated on the merits of the technology itself. So we don't have, let's say, any evenly distribution criteria set in advance for this.
Okay, this is some of the questions we received previously. Can we submit a white paper on our tech that is at TRL3?
TRL3 may not be eligible under the conditions of this particular call. So I don't think that would be eligible.
How important is it to measure the baseline emissions prior to implementing a reduction strategy?
It is important. If your technology requires to be tested against a baseline, then of course that would be something we would expect to be part of your project scope. Based on how the project is set up and what you intend to achieve through the development project, it I would believe it would be important, but we would like to know some more specifics to comment appropriately.
Thanks, Akhil. And the question, explain stacking limits. Explain the impact of the NGIF contribution on project SR and ED claims.
The stacking limits are indicated in the guidelines document. They are 50% up to 50% of the project eligible cost. And this funding is non-dilutive grants, so you will treat them as non-repayable grants for R&D development. Generally, it would reduce the SHRED expenditures, but I would encourage you to kind of take a expert opinion from your CRA consultant or tax consultant.
Previous competitions we had.
Sorry, Denny.
Is this competition similar to the ones we have already, like competitions we held previous years?
It is. It has one intake. I think this question relates to the Global Clean Tech Challenge, and that particular competition had multiple cohorts. But this particular competition is one cohort with the timelines that's indicated in the guidelines document.
Can UK and Italian startup and SME enter competition?
Yeah, the short answer is yes.
Partnership is applying. How would we?
If the partnership is applying, how would we identify the lead applicant? I think it needs to be maybe carefully looked at. If where the IP would go, I think that would probably be a good guidance to identify who would be the lead. We essentially want to look at a project that can de-risk a technology, and our guidance would be from an IP perspective. You can look at those arrangements and then maybe decide on that. I think there is one more question on on if it's okay to stack with NRC or Alberta Innovates. The answer is yes. You can stack these ones with any of the public ones.
We'll wait for a few more minutes. If anyone have any questions, just unmute and you can ask directly.
Myron, do you want to add anything, any guidance you want to offer?
Not really. I think you summed it up well, Akhil. Thanks. If last call for any questions. If not, maybe we can put a pin on this webinar. All right. If you do have any further questions before the deadline, don't hesitate to reach out to us at applications@ngif.ca, and we'd be happy to address any queries. Thank you so much for your time, folks. See you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.